Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We're excited to have you here for this month's webinar, From Reactive to Predictive, the Next Evolution in Facility Operations. My name is Corey Marshall, and I'm a Campaign Marketing Manager here at Johnson Controls. And our guest speaker for today is Jessica Boquist. Before we get started, I just want to run through some of the elements that are available to you in our platform, which is called Big Marker. On the right-hand side of your screen, you have a couple features. The first is chat. If you have any messages that you want to send to the entire group, or if you want to respond to any questions that we either pose to everyone or type out in the chat, you can do that there. If you have specific questions on the content or something specific for Jessica to respond to, you can add that to the Q&A. If we have time at the end, we'll be sure and go through those questions. Otherwise, we'll be sure and follow up with you after today's event. And then we'll also have some polls, and you'll see those pop up on your screen. I believe we're going to kick off with one of those here in just a minute. So be sure and answer that so that we can see your selections, and then we'll talk through those results as well. Our session is being recorded today, and we will follow up with everyone who registered with a link to that recording once it's available. With that, I think we're ready to get started. Jessica?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Jessica Boquist. I'm Director of Product Management for Johnson Controls digital team, and I currently lead our Insights employee and workplace teams. I was also the workplace product manager. So really excited to talk through some of the changes we're seeing as we move from reactive to predictive maintenance. All right. Corey, I think we're going to kick off the poll. There we go. So please take a moment to respond. We'd like to get a sense of where your organization is on the reactive to predictive scale. We'll give it just a moment or so.
Yeah, I see some results coming in now. They do take a few seconds, which is hard to be patient, I think, sometimes as we're waiting for those responses. But now it looks like it's populating. We're all set.
Awesome. All right. Seeing a wide range of where everyone is. Some are still very fully reactive. Looks like a good grouping of us are mostly predictive, or maybe even somewhat predictive already, which is pretty impressive.
I'm going to go ahead and minimize. It doesn't look like there are any more responses coming in.
Okay. So that's impressive. We actually reached the highest level of being somewhat predictive. So I'm pretty impressed. So we can dive in to the presentation. So there, predictive maintenance is certainly where we're going, right? And it's really going to allow us to reduce downtime of our assets, our very expensive assets that are in our buildings. So, traditional reactive maintenance, our models are really no longer efficient. We need to at least at a minimum get to preventative, and that needs to kind of be the baseline. So setting up preventative maintenance schedules on your assets so that you're not, forgetting about certain things that might need to be reviewed on a regular basis, or, making sure that just there's no downtime that's unexpected. But really, predictive operations are above and beyond that and really allow you to optimize performance, have more efficient maintenance of the space, making sure that your technicians are able to kind of group, visits based on what's going on within your real estate portfolio. It also really allows you to reduce costs and not have any expensive mistakes. And really, very important for your workplace experience, it allows you to improve your occupant experience. You're not going to have HVAC's going out all the time. Your IAQ should be a lot better. So it's really important to at least have that preventative maintenance, but ideally start moving towards that predictive maintenance. Because really, when you put these operations into place, it allows the facility management to really become a strategic driver of your business value, figure out ways to cut costs and improve efficiency across the board. So, as we shift from reactive to predictive, of course, reactive is responding to issues as they occur, also known as kind of corrective maintenance. So someone comes into their office, the error is not working as expected, they put in a ticket, then they have to wait for someone to come and resolve the issue while they're sitting in their office, either freezing or overheating, while they're trying to also be efficient at work. Preventative maintenance is, again, being able to set up schedules on a regular basis to go in and maintain those assets. Whereas then predictive is that next phase where you're able to better anticipate and prevent issues before they occur. So being able to look at any anomalies across your assets, looking at trends over time to see when something might not be working as expected, which could, for instance, in FFD, if the motor's off, which I'll touch on a use case a little bit later, that could be caused by a series of things. And so really being able to easily look at that quickly, determine what the issue is and resolve it could save you a ton of money and a ton of time. So it really increases efficiency, cost savings, and really reliability of your assets over time. So some of the things that you really need to be able to put in place to be able to start with predictive operations in your business include setting up IoT sensors on your devices, being able to track things more efficiently, being able to pull in AI and machine learning algorithms. So for instance, creating, having a chatbot or something that will be able to provide automated notifications or reminders when things might be occurring with your sensors that are, showing an anomaly, or maybe you set an override on a piece of equipment and you need a reminder that says, hey, let's make sure to shut this off after your event so that you're not racking up additional energy bills. Also being able to look at real-time data analytics platforms. So these are things, for instance, that we're working with our insights team and our workplace teams together to make sure that you're seeing that real-time data coming through. Being able to have your IWMS system. So again, within our maintenance system, we're able to create work orders, right now, both reactive and preventative, and we are working towards having that predictive maintenance as well. And one of those things that's kind of allowing us to go down that path is the building automation system integration, which really provides a full series of alarms, fault detection, and trend data over time, being able to automate those work orders and get us to a point where we can see and suggest things that might also need to be resolved while a technician is going to repair a piece of equipment. This should help with, uptime being maintained, as well as, the overall life cycle of your assets. So, there are several benefits of predictive operations being implemented in your business. So as I mentioned, being able to reduce any downtime of your assets, this really goes towards maintenance costs as well. And again, I'll touch on a few use cases in a bit, but when you're able to, on a regular basis, be looking at your assets, being, not just from a preventative standpoint, but also when you're detecting any potential issues and being able to get ahead of those before they trickle into a bigger issue, it really allows, to potentially save money, to make sure that you're shutting your overrides off so that you're not accruing massive energy bills. So that would be the first benefit. Next, again, being able to improve asset lifespan and reliability. So if you notice an anomaly in how something is working, so let's say, maybe you're getting a cold front and you notice that the motor is not working as expected. It could be that the motor is about to die. It could also be that it's just a filter that got plugged that needs to be resolved. But making sure that you fix those things quickly allows you to continue with your asset and not have to replace it as quickly. It improves occupant comfort and safety. So imagine if you have IAQ issue that you're getting toxins in a building, that's going to cause ineffectiveness of your employees, because if you've ever sat in a conference room for an extended period of time, you'll start to notice that everyone's starting to get really sleepy because over the course of the day, the IAQ is going to go down. We actually, in our headquarters in Raleigh, when we're in our big conference room, we can see our IAQ sensors with the sad face occurring over the day as we've been sitting in a big room. So making sure that you have all of your assets set properly when you know that people are coming in ensures that you can have a more enhanced comfort for your employees and occupants during the day, especially if you're having like big events that might not be normal for your day-to-day activities. And then data-driven decision making. So again, this really allows you to maintain your assets over time, see how they're running on a day-to-day basis, and it will also allow you to kind of make better capital planning decisions, determining if it makes sense to repair or replace a certain asset, because obviously these are usually very expensive, right? And so we want to be able to plan those and not just unexpectedly have to replace something because we've been neglecting it or not managing it over time. All right, so the role of an IWMS in predictive operations, it really provides a centralized data management tool. So again, we're pulling in data from various sources, including the sensors from our building automation systems. It allows us to streamline workflows and automations. So for instance, with our integration with Medisys, it allows us to prioritize certain alarms and create those automated work orders that then get routed to the proper technician based on geography, as well as the type of work that has to be done, plumbing, electrician work, whatever, HVAC, whatever it might be, making sure it gets to the right person, that they're able to go and repair that alarm, quickly. And so that's maintaining that uptime of the asset. We allow for real-time monitoring and alerts. So again, being able to quickly get that automated work order and not have to wait for someone to get the alarm, review it, and then send something in and get a technician out there. We are doing that behind the scenes, creating that paper trail. It allows for continuous improvement and optimization in your processes. So again, as you start seeing perhaps certain trends in your maintenance and what alarms or faults are coming through or being detected, you can make different plans for how you want to create a maintenance schedule from a preventative standpoint, but then also we can use those trends to provide recommendations as well from a predictive standpoint. It allows us to integrate with different building automation systems. Again, Medisys is the one that we've started with, but we are looking to expand that and work with other building automation systems, because one of the things that we constantly hear is that, you might have 3 or 4 different building automation systems across your portfolio, depending on when buildings were acquired. And so we really want to make sure that you're able to pull in and automate your processes as much as possible, no matter which building automation systems that you're using. And then use of AI for predictive maintenance based on data. So this is something we're actively working on with our AI team, to be able to pull in more of that fault detection data and alarm data from your building automation system, and then look at that along with the history or the trends of repairs or work orders that have been created for your various assets, and be able to make recommendations, being able to make, notifications and create an automated work order. If, let's say, you've set an override for a piece of equipment because you knew that you were having an event in your office, making sure that we're reminding you to shut that off so that you're not accruing additional costs that were unexpected. All right, so here are a couple of use cases. I'm sure I could go into a few more, honestly. One was, we had a university hospital who had an override on a piece of equipment set in their non-patient wing. And so for an entire weekend, they were set at 100% outside air, which increased their utility bill by about $1 million. So being able to have predictive maintenance, again, where there's a reminder or a notification to turn off that override, or even better yet, being able to automate a work order that goes to the technician that has them shut off the override, could have prevented this massive utility bill surprise. So that's one example of where predictive maintenance could really come into play. Another example was we had a corporate building, a corporation who came to us. They had an increased cold start on their VFD, which is, as many of you I'm sure know, about $250,000 asset. Multiple reasons that could be happening. It could have been that the motor was starting to die. It could have been, a filter plug. It could have been a variety of things. Being able to provide a recommendation or create a work order to have that resolved quickly could really go a long way in protecting that asset, keeping, reducing the downtime, and ultimately, reducing the chance of having to replace that immediately and increasing the life cycle of that piece of equipment. Another example that we recently heard was where we had a building that had a bypass filter in the executive area, and it was causing extra particles nonstop just running through the executive building. So all the executives were feeling very sluggish because it was essentially becoming a toxic environment as they were, sitting in this area. So being able to catch those faults and alarms and whatnot will really allow for, not only reduce downtime, not only reduce costs, but also an increased customer or, employee or occupant experience. So some of the ways to get started with predictive operations would be, accessing your current operations and data, kind of getting a lay of the land, as well as with current reports and dashboards, seeing where you're at today, seeing which assets might be giving you the most trouble, to be able to go ahead and set up at a minimum a preventative maintenance plan and schedule. And then being able, using that as a baseline so that when you're starting to see those anomalies, you kind of know what to look at. That will allow you to identify key areas for improvement or places where you want to focus and make sure that you are addressing certain assets within your building. Another great concept is to implement IoT and analytics solutions to really get a way of, to get that additional data, being able to make data-driven decisions, not only for maintenance, but also for buying versus repair decisions, how you might want to turn off certain equipment or, depending on your utilization. So how many people are in an office on Mondays and Fridays compared to Tuesdays through Thursdays? Maybe you're, shutting certain things off on certain floors, depending on how your day-to-day utilization looks like. And you can use your IWMS to track and iterate. So again, as you're kind of seeing how your utilization is day to day and how your trends of repair data are looking, you can kind of determine what you want to focus on, what you need to update, any preventative schedules that you might need to update based on what you're getting from your predictive analytics. And then again, and this one I've kind of touched on, but looking at your utilization, understanding high traffic time. So again, are you having people in the office every day? Is it only Tuesday through Thursday? But making sure that you're kind of adjusting and utilizing your assets appropriately for the utilization so that you're not having more maintenance than you need, but you're also not getting hit with any, expensive bills if you've forgotten to turn something off accordingly. And again, a lot of that automation can be set in place, which will prevent a lot of those issues from arising. A few challenges that you might need to overcome in terms of setting up your predictive operations in your organization is around data integration and interoperability. So again, being able to kind of get the full picture between your building automation system, your IWMS, your analytics platform to really make sure that you're seeing all the data and making data-driven decisions will allow you to reduce that downtime and be able to look at costs and figure out ways to improve your costs across the organization. Also in optimizing performance and life cycle of your assets. Change management and training. So of course, anytime that you're implementing a new process into your organization, there's a level of change management and training. But I think, by setting up different automations, it will allow for a better process for your technicians to be on a more, regimented plan, which allows them to not have surprises or fires that they have to put out, so to speak. Ensuring data accuracy and reliability. So of course, anytime there's AI, I know there's sometimes concerns about the legitimacy of it. So we are working very closely with our AI team and our data scientists to make sure that what we are delivering from a data standpoint is accurate based on the data that we are seeing from your utilization dashboards and insights, and from the fault detection in our building automation systems, to make sure that we're providing you correct recommendations and create accurate work orders based on the data available. And then scaling solutions across the organization. So this is always one where, I would recommend starting small and then kind of building as you can, not trying to boil the ocean in one day. This would be a massive undertaking for anyone. So really, start with preventative maintenance if you don't have that, and then kind of build from there. All right, so just a few key takeaways, and then I think we're going to get into some questions. So again, predictive operations can optimize performance and reduce cost. This is really just meant to be an addition to preventative maintenance. Preventative maintenance still needs to be there in your operations day to day to make sure that you're managing everything as expected. This is really to kind of go above and beyond and really optimize where possible. Implementing IoT, AI, and IWMS as a full package are really your key enablers to provide those predictive analytics and data-driven decisions, for your organization to get the benefits out of predictive maintenance. And being able to make that continuous improvement over time is essential. Being able to track, those trends and, and make, changes based on that is really important, and being able to start small and then scale over time. So again, those continuous improvements over time as you continue to scale your process will go a long way in hopefully a lot of benefits for your organization. So thank you. That was it.
Thank you, Jessica. So yeah, we do have a few minutes left in our allotted time. If you have any questions, please go ahead and add those to the Q&A. We did have a couple that came in, so we can get started with those. But as you think of others, if you're in the audience, please go ahead and add those. One is really kind of like a forward-looking vision for you, Jessica, around, where do you see predictive operations evolving over the next few years?
So I think as, AI only gets more powerful. I mean, obviously AI is the buzzword, right? But I think as AI becomes even more prevalent in our organizations, it'll really increase the ability to be more predictive in how we maintain our buildings and our assets, and provide more feedback for, looking at different things that we can't look at perhaps today, being able to pull additional information together as we continue to integrate, and I think as buildings become more smart and autonomous overall, it'll really allow us to feed into that information and be smarter with our decisions that we're making for the organization.
When it comes to data sources, are there some, you mentioned some, but are there some that are more important than others that that people should focus on integrating or pulling data in from? Or is it just whichever ones you have?
I mean, I would definitely say pull in what you can, what you have to get the fullest picture. Obviously, being able to look at your sensor data from your assets that you have set up, being able to look at the faults or alarms that are coming through from your building automation system are going to be key in understanding if there's any anomalies or things going off with your equipment, whether it's your temperature is off, your vibration is off, there's an override that was forgotten about. Those are really going to be a key to, seeing what needs to be done or seeing if there's a work order that needs to be created. And those are going to be, those are things that predictive maintenance can certainly tell the story of, but it's not going to necessarily be more of your longer term planning. That's still going to be somewhat reactive. It'll get you in to look at the equipment faster, but it's not necessarily going to give that long-term success. Being able to look at things like your utilization data or your bookings data together and seeing when people are coming into the office more, and being able to kind of drive decisions around that, or being able to, look at trend data over time to see how much you've spent on repairs for a specific asset that will allow you to help with capital planning. Those are things that I think are going to drive longer-term value. But again, pull in what you can to kind of make that decision and those decisions and the full picture.
All right, we have a couple more. The first is asking specifically around OpenBlue, what's our typical minimum portfolio size for our clients?
We are an enterprise solution, so a lot of our clients do tend to have larger portfolios, but we do have we have a lot of hospitals and higher ed, like universities. So those obviously would be a little bit of a larger portfolio. But we do have some smaller customers with about, 500,000 square feet or so. So it just kind of depends. And I think depending on which products you're most interested in, kind of also determines, what would make the most sense for you.
Makes sense. Our last one is you had mentioned, start small on your last slide. But what is that first kind of simple step that those on the call could take today to start moving towards predictive operations?
So I would say based on the poll, there are still some of you who are still fairly reactive in your day-to-day management or maintenance. So I would say the first step, if you're not already doing it, is to set up preventative work schedules for your assets. That's a great first step. Being able to start tracking data over time. So looking at your repair trends over time. And then I would say the next thing too is if you do have your building automation system and you can start integrating that with your work order system, that's a great way to automate that and get those problems resolved a whole lot faster. So that's kind of a few places to start.
I thought that was it, but then another one snuck in as you were answering. So I think we have time for one. This will be the last one officially. Does Predictive require Metasys, or are there plans to integrate Predictive without Metasys, possibly linking with other systems?
Yes, so we are looking to integrate with other building automation systems outside of Metasys. That is something that's on our roadmap. And so the predictive maintenance would not only be on Metasys, it would be based on any of those integrations. And also, like I said, if let's say you have workplace and insights and employee, you'd be able to pull data from all of those to make those well-rounded decisions. So really the more data you have, the better recommendations you're going to get.
Fantastic. Thank you, Jessica, for presenting today. We really appreciate your insights into this topic and carving out some time in your schedule to talk with us. For those that are customers on the line, be sure to, we can continue this conversation in our Champions Customer Advocacy platform. I know Jessica is in there periodically as well as other product managers to help answer any questions that you may have. So please head over there. If you're not familiar with what that is, please get in touch with us and we'll be sure and get an invite out to you. Otherwise, thank you everyone for joining us today and have a great rest of your day. That's it for us.
Thank you.